They let us in the big studio. Don't tell your mom, don't tell your brother, but they are not getting rid of me anytime soon. Don't go anywhere. I cannot believe the WNBA season is wrapped up. I mean, what, 4 or 5 long months, and we've worked just for this moment. I'm joined today by my esteemed co-host, Stephen Griner, MVP, QB1, on and off the streets, on and off the field, wherever you want him. He's QB1. I'm Erika and we are helped behind the scenes by Kevin Thomas today. Thank goodness, one to wrap up the season. I'm really excited to be here with you today, Stephen, especially in the big studio. I can't believe they let me in here. Who made this call?
I think it was more than appropriate. It's a nice little alignment with the season that we saw for 2024. A lot of big things happening. Continue upward trajectory. That needle that was already facing upward coming into the season is literally facing from south to north. And all of the stars are aligning for the league to continue to do that with each of the draft classes coming forward.
I've seen a lot of funny tweets today since the Diana news broke that she hasn't made any decisions, that she's just waiting to play with Paige Beckers, and I can't help but giggle. You guys are ridiculous. I just have to say it.
That's funny. Obviously, we have no news on DT. She's keeping everything really close to the chest, so stay tuned on that. As soon as we find something out, you better believe it'll be a breaking news podcast, whether she's staying or she's going. So.
Emergency pod. I just have to get in my car real quick so they'll let us back in the big studio. Sorry about being late, though, everybody. And welcome to the show. If you're in the comments, shout out to you guys for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. We got a lot to get to today. First of all, we've had probably the most exciting final series of all time. Would you argue that?
It's hard to beat Sparks and Lynx.
Valid, yes.
Candace Parker, Prime Candace, Maya Moore, Prime Maya Moore, every other name that was involved with that. I feel like this was very similar to it, though. There's a lot of energy, a lot of attention around the game. Each game was played extremely close, a whole lot of crunch time, clutch play in addition to all of that. And it was a spectacle, to say the least, some high-level basketball.
If you heard... I've been calling the shots over here since before the playoffs began. I'm going to say it. I called the New York Liberty win, but then also the script writers gifted me with 2 overtimes. And I just feel like they heard my request loud and clear.
It seems like they did.
And then the decisive game 5 overtime. Are we serious right now?
Seems like the refs heard you too, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm so pleased that Stephen and I are on dueling sides of this battle. I'm so satisfied with this.
I don't mind being wrong. I'm just saying those are script writers, but it was also the stripes or the grays, whatever you want to call them now.
Do you think I should be a blind ref for Halloween? Yes or no?
I think everybody should be a blind ref and get paid to do it.
Well, so I'm gonna take it that it was a foul to you.
No, it was a foul. It was a travel. It was a lot of things. It was a lot of things.
Someone texted me early this morning to ask my opinion on it, and I said, "Do you want my opinion or how I really feel?"
Exactly.
Because the obvious answer is that it was a foul, but I think we've been asking for this all season, just some consistent officiating. And I don't even mean game to game, but quarter to quarter, 10 minutes, 5 minutes to 5 minutes. And I don't think we've gotten that. And I see a lot of people have asked for like a third party review source for the challenges. But it's definitely been dissatisfying, the inconsistent officiating.
Yeah, you want to, if it is what it is for the entire season up until the finals, that's when your product is supposed to be at its absolute best, from the coaching to the media to the players to all the teams involved. and the officiating being the biggest domino in all of that, because intentionally or not, they're going to sway the game. You would much rather be the players and the people who represent the respective franchises going at it to make that decision. You know, things happen. I know it's definitely not the easiest job. I've officiated before. It wasn't basketball, but it was football. That's not easy to do. So I want to make sure we emphasize that part. But that being said, you get paid just like the players do, just like the coaches do, to do a job. And your job needs to be done to the peak of its powers when you're at that particular stretch of the season in the spotlight, being the championship. There's livelihoods at stake. There's literal jobs at stake. If Sandy Bardella loses that game, who's to say what the New York Liberty's decision might be going in the next season as far as coaching? There's players with contracts on the line. You win a championship, that changes a whole lot of things compared for your resume, whether you might stay with that team, whether you can re-sign. There's a lot of things that are imbalanced. And for it to be kind of at fault of a lack of consistent officiating, it's tough. It's a tough bow to put on a season that was such a special one for many different reasons.
I would say disappointing is definitely the word I felt toward the officiating. And the entire series, if I'm honest with you, I just didn't think it was fair on either end at any particular time. And when you're calling ticky-tacky fouls on one team and not doing it for the other, you're just doing nothing but setting the other team, the team that is getting the calls, up for failure and spectacle in the media later and later on.
Yeah, for sure. I think we could literally spend an entire podcast talking about the officiating. I think Don Staley said a handful of things. Lord knows Cheryl Reeve had a whole dissertation times 10 for everything that was involved in terms of how the series and season turned out. Don't want to go too far without congratulating the New York Liberty, though. It was definitely earned. Obviously, we said what we said about the officiating, but they certainly did what they needed to earn their first championship in franchise history. I think that Sandy Brondello and the job she did in the finals in particular, having a counterpunch for everything that Minnesota did as a staple and took away from them in the regular season and the Commissioner's Cup championship, even the first 4 games. She had equal counterpunches for everything over the course of Game 5 at home at the biggest, with the most urgency as possible, and you see the result that they got.
Well, and then even in Game 5 to put in that big lineup that's never played any minutes together, huge risk, right? I mean, like you don't really know what's going to happen. Nyara hasn't played a ton of minutes in the playoffs at all, let alone in the finals. And then you put that big lineup in and it completely changes the landscape of the game.
Well, that's the thing. It wasn't used in the playoffs, but in the regular season, that was something I feel like Sandy had in her back pocket just because of how the regular season went for that team. Figured out a lot of different lineups around Sabrina Ionescu at the point guard position, and a bunch of big, rangy, athletic wings and centers around her. That's an iteration of the lineups that made them the best team in the W this season. Didn't press that button in the playoffs up until Game 5, but you see when you have that checkmate piece in your back pocket, she was able to play it, and the Lynx literally had just no answer for it generally.
Yeah. Well, I can't go any further without giving flowers to one of my favorite players. And I just have to start off by saying the look on her face when they presented the Finals MVP to her was so priceless. But before I say her name, I'm going to go down the laundry list of accolades. 2017 Most Improved Player, 2018 Sixth Man of the Year, 2021 MVP, 2023 Commissioner's Cup MVP, 5-time All-Star, and now Finals MVP Jonquel Jones. Listen, if you know anything about me, you know that I've come a long way with my relationship with JJ, okay? If you would have asked me a year ago who one of my favorite bigs in the league was, JJ would have been long down the list. But I have really learned to love and respect her, and the way she did not get frazzled in that entire final series, I think it's one of the biggest differences between this past finals that we just saw a few days ago and then last year's finals. You saw a lot of frustration out of JJ last year. You saw it in her fouling that oftentimes was not getting called. And needless to say, though, she stepped up in the biggest moment in the league, and she's earned that Finals MVP.
Yeah, it feels like people forgot Jonquel is just a few seasons removed from a literal MVP.
Right.
That's with Breanna Stewart still in the league. Diana Taurasi was a whole lot closer to her prime at that time. Candace Parker was in the league. Asia Wilson was just scratching the surface of her prime. Alyssa Thomas was in the league, was literally her teammate. Like, there's a lot of great basketball players that Arike Agubawale was She might have led the league in scoring that season. I can't remember exactly, but there's a lot of players that could have staked some claim in that MVP that season, and she got it. And it wasn't by happenstance. She went and snatched that from everybody. And that's the caliber player she still is. She's better now than she was then, even if it didn't come with the MVP award this last handful of seasons. So I feel like she just another example of her going and earning it, reminded people that she's one of the best players in the entire world that touches a basketball, and she rose to the occasion and then some. There was no better option for Finals MVP for the New York Liberty than Jonquel Jones.
The shock on her face though was so priceless. I don't think I've ever seen like that much joy like on her face, just pure excitement and happiness, and it was just a great moment for the league. I think Stewie and Sab, they did this, they did that in Game 5, and we're gonna get to that, but it was a huge stamp on the end of JJ's season.
Yeah, that's why the Liberty were so adamant about going out and attaining and retaining Jonquel Jones. They were very, very business oriented in going about bringing her into their franchise. They acknowledged her for the difference maker that she would be for them, and everything that they spoke to in her initial presser from a couple of seasons ago came to fruition in Game 5 in particular. And she was the difference maker, like you said she would be for the team in the series. And there was just no answer for her. The threes, the rebounds, the passing and playmaking, the defense, it was all there.
How do you answer JJ in her prime like that?
That's something that no one really has an answer to, honestly.
Well, and I kind of hinted at it a second ago, but I want to talk about the guard play because Stephen, we talked a lot about how that was going to be the key to these games, and it was. And so I kind of want to let you talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. If you told me Game 5 went the way that it went based off of the stat lines, I would say, okay, well, Minnesota won by like 6 to 8 points. All the games were won within a 2.5 point margin on average. I would say they won that game probably by 6 or 8, only because Sabrina did not have a game even close to her normal standard. And outside of Phoebus chipping in multiple pockets, there wasn't a true impact from the guard group from the New York Liberty. However, you flip sides, you look at Minnesota, Courtney Williams had a couple of moments. Kayla McBride had moments the entire second half, including overtime, where she pretty much put the team on her back a handful of moments. And then obviously Bridget Carlton had some say-so in things as well. Natasha Heidemann, like you mentioned in our initial series preview, had some moments as well, especially spelling Courtney Williams once she kind of hit a cold stretch in the second half in particular. They played better in terms of guard group for guard group in Game 5. And on the road at that, that's what you want. Those are the pieces on the margins that you need around somebody like Napheesa Collier to put you in a position to win a game that's as pivotal as a Game 5 with the season in the balance. And then overtime happens. And that's where the issue started, because I feel like Minnesota needed to close the door in the fourth quarter. If it went to overtime and you tell me the home court team is the one that came back from the deficit, the crowd's going to be far too involved. Those players are going to be on a little bit more of a rhythm type of feel on the game than you are. And it's just going to be tough trying to fight uphill with only 5 minutes to make something happen. So that was tough for the Minnesota Lynx. Obviously, you talked about the context of the officiating. We don't need to touch that anymore. But definitely want to, I know it's not guard-oriented, but give a shout-out to Napheesa Collier for the series that she had, because comprehensively, she was by far the best player from start to finish.
Period. Talk about it.
Yeah.
She was that girl. Yeah. She wasn't taking no for an answer. Her and the bucket were best friends.
Her and the bottom of the net were best friends, because it was barely touching the rim. Bump fade after turnaround jumper, after pivot, and a pump fake, and everybody's jumping around, and there's clothes all over the court, and then she's getting a wide open shot at the basket, and probably getting fouled too half of the time.
Well, in a much different way than JJ. Napheesa is one of the most versatile players in the league. And, how do you answer that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's why she was second in MVP. And in any other season, she would have been the bona fide, probably unanimous MVP in tandem with the Defensive Player of the Year. Her impact, her value, the IQ, they're generally better when she's on the floor than when she's not. And we saw the results of that in this series with so many other Olympians external of just her from both teams that were on the floor. She was the best player. And she did as much as she could for Minnesota. I don't think you could have asked her for any more than she did. She guarded Jonquel Jones on switches. She switched obviously on the Breanna Stewart when need be as well. She scored. She just did literally everything. Knocked down threes even. You couldn't ask for anything more from Nafisa. They put themselves in a position to be right there. There's a moment, though, that comes to mind in the fourth quarter where Sabrina knocked down that big-time three. The only shot she made, they ended up coming after a switch that Minnesota went with. And I know it's like in their defensive process to add help when it's someone like a shooter that's at the top of the key like Sabrina Ionescu, just to shrink the floor on her. Or no, excuse me, when whoever it was, I can't remember who it was that got the ball at the top of the key off the switch. It might have been Breanna Stewart, it might have been Jonquel, but Nafisa got switched on to Sabrina Ionescu, and she showed like 2-3 steps of help to pinch on the ball handler and left Sabrina wide open on the wing. I know it's tough. I know it's habitual. I know that's their defensive process. But when you get in a situation like that, you have to err on whoever it is with the ball that's not Sabrina taking a pull-up three or just creating for their offense. She erred on the help, and it burned them ultimately. I feel like that was like a play that's really burned in my memory that kind of stands out. That's a tough. It's just tough. It's tough.
Well, and when Sabrina's shot isn't falling and then you watch that huge shot go in, it's kind of leaves the Lynx in a tough spot where it's like, now what?
Exactly. And at that point, they hadn't scored in a handful of minutes. On top of that, it was just kind of compounding. Obviously, the officiating flow-wise and rhythm-wise wasn't in their favor at that point in the game, too. So it was just, things just started compounding. You're running out of time. Can't buy a bucket. It's tough.
I'm giggling at Stephen's comment. Erika, since you asked for 2 OTs in the finals, can you ask for me to win the lottery? If I was a true fortune teller like that, do you think I would be sitting in front of you today? Stephen, get so serious. And my mom said we need to win the lottery first, and she's not wrong. If I'm going to call the shots for anybody, it's going to be someone with the last name Day. And Matthew's comment, Nafisa is going to be back with a vengeance next season. I don't believe you're wrong.
She's going to be right there in the MVP race again. When she is healthy, needless to say, she's one of the 5 best players, one of the 4 best players in the W. She showed that again this season.
And to address one more comment before we move to the next, Maddox with the Liberty back-to-back champs, I don't see it. I'm going to call it right now. It's October 22nd. I don't see it in the future. And as we established, I am a fortune teller.
But we'll see what happens with the expansion draft and all of that fun stuff. I'm curious to see who they deem as their top 6. But what scares me is this New York Liberty team bringing Rebecca Griner into everything that they already have established. They have a template for winning that no one had a true sustained answer to. Sabrina at the 1, a handful of wings plus Jonquel, and obviously Breanna Stewart in the front court. Multiple iterations of that is why they had the best lineups across the entire W. And they went to an iteration of that to put the stamp and put the coffin on the regular season, or on the finals rather. I'm just seeing Rebecca Griner potentially be with that team next season if they cover her that way. Yikes.
Huge yikes.
Yeah, you throw her with Kayla Thornton and Benaja Laney Hamilton. Like, that's a problem. It's a problem.
The core in New York is definitely going to be tough to compete with.
Back-to-back championship appearances. 1-1 in that, but
Steven's almost comparing these guys to the Aces right now, and I don't know that I'll have that.
I'm just saying they made it back-to-back.
I don't know that I can take that. That being said, though, I forgot to mention something at the top of the episode, and Kevin's going to yell at me, so I better do this now. There's a really exciting opportunity. I've talked a lot about becoming a diehard, joining us in the diehard chat, hanging out with us at events. PHNX is doing something cool for you guys and giving us a little introductory offer, a limited time, $48 a year or only $4 per month. And you can join us now. And like I said, join us in the Discord lounge, hang out with us, get some exclusive written content by Stephen, maybe myself. Who knows if I'll ever write again. But like I said, super limited time offer, $4 a month or $48 a year. And you get to talk to me just that much more. And I don't know that anyone would complain about that.
Take advantage of that. There's a lot external of PHNX Mercury, but in addition to us, that is going to be exclusive, and you want to be able to consume that. The best way for y'all to support us is by supporting that, and we'll continue to put on events and everything that makes the ALLCITY network unique, as well as PHNX in particular. So tap in with us in the ways that y'all have, extend that a little bit more, and we got a whole lot more fun lined up for y'all over this next calendar year and some change.
Now, Stephen, we've taken a little bit of a hiatus from this, and I've been kind of disappointed. We've just been busy with, the finals and the playoffs, and yapping really is what we've been busy with. But I haven't gotten to do a Slay of the Day in a little while, and so I wanted to do one because after the finals, it has just been hilarious, to say the least, on socials. And I have a couple of tweets that I've been saving in my back pocket to show on this pod because, quite frankly, are we serious? Like, it's just too funny. So, Kevin, if you'll show us the Sid tweet. Candace Parker, I have to read that from afar. I've been to the finals, won and lost ships, but there is no bigger emotion than losing and listening to the other team celebrate while you are in the locker room. I can remember the champagne, but I can feel the gut-wrenching pain in my stomach when we fell short. Sid Colson's response, face of the league, might I remind you, girl, blah, blah, blah. You coming back to play next year or not? And then someone, courtside Kenny says, wait, is that on the table? And Sid says, I don't know. I just be talking. And personally, I don't think it should ever be off the table. I know she's up there, but damn, like, can we get her back 1 year?
I wish, but I just don't see it. She seems very comfortable.
I saw your friend Melissa's tweet about maybe some ownership in the sky. I would take that too.
That's what I would love for her, but so my thing, I've always said with Candace, I don't care if she decides to go on a PGA tour. I don't care if she decides to go on bowling. I don't care if she decides to get into ownership. She could go into fishing. She could do literally whatever she wants. She just has that it about her where she's going to win at whatever it is that she does. You see what she brought to the broadcast team. And Lord knows the TNT broadcast team needed her expertise and feel to kind of balance out the nonsense that goes on at that network. That's just what she does. Everywhere she goes, she adds immense value from basketball to on the court, off the court, and everywhere in between. She just does that, and she's doing the same thing with parenthood right now, too. So kudos to her. I'm scared for the Aces, though, because remember, they were looking at Elena Deladon, and contractually, she wasn't able to make any moves pertaining to her situation with the Mystics this past season. We'll see what comes of that, but I would not be surprised if she ends up in, what's the black and white now? You can't even say black, white, and red and gold. They just eliminated.
Don't remind me that they did that. Why would they do that?
Yeah.
But, and they still wear the red jerseys like ain't nothing changed. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. That's I'm sure that's the whole podcast in and of itself, because that just didn't make any sense. But Elena Deladon with the Las Vegas Aces would not surprise me.
That makes me sick to my stomach.
The rich get richer. Yes.
Yeah, calm down.
I'm just saying, don't be surprised. That's all I said.
Well, we got another tweet. Well, actually, I guess this is just an Instagram comment. And our amazing producer, Kevin, shared this with me this morning. And this is what stemmed this whole segment here today. And Overtime Women's Basketball posts, Fee posting these pictures at the end of her finals post has me weak. And BG responds and says, anyone that watches the W's knows that when you play in Minnesota, you're not about to get any call. And quite frankly, is she wrong? Spot the lie. I guess it's finals game 5, huh?
Exactly. Exactly.
I knew you were going to say that, though.
Yeah, that's tough. I can't say Brittney's wrong.
She's
especially
not.
When you see your commissioner doing... Yeah, bruh is the correct response, Kevin. That's all I gotta say on that. Shout out Kathy. That's all I'm gonna say.
Virginia Slim. Huge shouts to Virginia Slim. I can't. Nonetheless, though, some really stellar content. You know, I will say this. The New York Liberty have been rather aura-less since winning the title, especially when you compare to the celebrations we've gotten over the last 2 years from the Aces. I just need more.
They don't have the personalities that these other champions have, though. I think you had unrealistic expectations for them. Like, who was gonna be Sydney Colson for the Las Vegas or for the New York Liberty?
I'm gonna say it, Kennedy Burke.
She has that about her, though.
She's hilarious.
I see it. But is she Sydney, though? And you compound Sydney with everything that Asia is, and we can run down the list of the entire roster. Even Jackie Young, as stoic as she usually is, she has another side to her personality.
I was hoping at the bare minimum that Sabrina would take the boombox bit from KP at the bare minimum.
Come on now.
Like,
you set yourself up for failure on that one.
Disappointment, yes.
Disappointment.
You ain't never wrong, yes. But yeah.
Come on
like
now.
I said, aura list though. Like, give me more. Like, y'all are on Good Morning America, and y'all are doing what?
Not to mention, all due respect to Sandy Bardello, legendary basketball coach for multiple reasons.
She's not Becky.
She is not Becky. So again, we're talking about all of these things, and you're expecting even like 50% of that from the living.
Can I just get a little something?
Nah. I think they answered that for you. I'm just reiterating what they showed you. No.
The aura list has got to go. So no back-to-backs for New York. I can't do that 2 years in a row. I need more from the WNBA champions. Come on now.
I hear you. They celebrated how they wanted to, though. That's what they had.
In private, I need it like plastered. Come on, people. Give me more. Yeah, Rob says wait for the parade, which you know I'm happily doing. I love a good parade. But that being said, like this parade better pop off.
It could be a Yankees and Liberty parade.
You know, I just think we should cancel the World Series while we're at it.
That would have been insane if the Mets made it, though. I'm not like that. That would have been nuts.
Well, how fun would that have been? But again, I'm gonna say it: Yankees and the Dodgers. Like, let's just cancel the whole thing and go home. Like, what are we doing here?
Hey, listen, I have no comment on the baseball side of things.
I do, and we should still cancel it. Nonetheless, though, Stephen, you picked up some keys to your apartment today, and I got something to talk to you about for your apartment.
I'm curious, what you got for me?
Our good friends over at Empire Flooring. Have you heard of them?
Once or twice.
Yes. Well, with Empire today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Empire today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats. But do you know what your copycats don't have, Stephen?
What's that?
The sick new floor visualizer. You can go to empiretoday.com/PHNX. You can take a picture of your brand new apartment, upload that bad boy, and then pick some new not homes. You have a home. You don't need a new home. Some new floors and slide those right in. See what they're going to look like in your new apartment. How does that sound?
That sounds fantastic. Is there a discount that comes with that?
I was getting to that, Stephen. Thank you so much.
Talk to me.
$350 off of your purchase. Yes, with code PHNX. Do I need to say more at this point?
Can I leave now, Kevin? What time they close?
Stephen, we got 30 more minutes, okay? But nonetheless, empiretoday.com/PHNX for $350 off your new floors. Head there now, and when you're done with that, you can hit up our other friends, Circle K. Stephen, we've talked about it. The comparison between Chicago Circle Ks and these Circle Ks, I mean, it's like comparing apples to oranges at this point, right?
Yes.
I mean, I'm trying to think of a lot, like a lot to a little, I guess, is the only comparison we have here, huh?
A lot to a bare minimum over there with that for Circle K for sure.
But since you're over here, you've joined the inner circle now, right?
I actually did on Friday, like I said I would last week.
A man of his word.
That's right.
Absolutely per. That's what I like to hear. But this America's Thirst Stop, you can join the inner circle free membership program. Easy to download. Just enter your email and phone number to be fully enrolled. And then after that, all you need is your phone number to get deals. You get 25 cents off a gallon on your first 5 fill-ups after becoming a member, and then 3 cents a gallon off every day after that. Plus, plenty of other member-exclusive deals and discounts. As you can see, 79-cent Polar Pops. I've picked up one of them already today, and I'll pick up another on my way back to Tucson. The gas discounts come in handy for me these days, needless to say. But anyways, head over to the America's Thirst Stop and become an Inner Circle member today. Get your 79-cent Polar Pops and your 3 cents off of every gallon of gas that you buy. Big news, though, in WNBA land. And we've kind of skirted through 30 minutes without talking about it. And honestly, like, we're kind of bummy for that, I have to say. But NECA and the Players Association announced yesterday that they are opting out of the 2026 CBA. And we've kind of talked about this all year. We've anticipated it since like probably week 1 of our podcast, I would say. And how there's just going to be a lot of one-year deals, free agents, see galore over the next like year and some change. That being said, though, this kind of put a big final stamp on that, and there's going to be a lot of negotiations. The league and the Players Association has an entire year to come to an agreement Will it be scotch-free? I'm sure not, but nonetheless, we got a year to go.
I just want to salute the Women's Players Association, every representative within that, and all of the supporters of that segment of the W, because having backbone, when you understand and know that the product is only driven as far as you drive it, and to see the great lengths at which we've documented over this season alone, especially over the last like 3 or 4 seasons as momentum has grown and grown and grown, and more players have come into the league, it's about time. It's about time for them to start getting a whole lot more of what they deserve. I said the same thing about franchises being held to account for having the requisite practice facilities for these all-world athletes that they're housing. I can say even more about how they're facilitated to in terms of their contracts. They deserve way more than what they're earning, and I'm looking forward to them getting what they deserve.
I love when I talk to a new WNBA fan and they're like, well, why don't they just get paid more money? And I'm like, they have a set salary cap. It's not like the NBA. It's not like the NFL where there's like more wiggle room. No, like it period. It ends at the top of the salary cap, and there is nothing that lots of zeros Ishbia can do to add extra zeros to that salary cap.
Yeah. And I think back to Gabby Williams, one of the spearheaders in terms of players with the prioritization overseas and having to try to toe the line with that, spoke to just holding all of the W to account and saying that pay us. It's like there's nothing complicated about this. We don't have to do all of this back and forth. Pay us. If you pay us, then they'll be more than likely to stay here and play stateside versus going internationally, risking injury, risking other things that we've seen come up over the last handful of years that potentially plague a relationship with the WNBA with individual players. Pay them.
Not to mention, I mean, and we almost saw this with Gabby Williams this year, where the league is missing out on top talent because at the end of the day, it's not the pristine basketball league of the world. And when you're a foreign player, why not stay home and make more money and stay closer to your family? Let your mom and dad come see your basketball games. Like, you'd almost be silly to come to America to play and make what, $88,000? Like, it's nutty.
Yeah, I think the Olympics were a little bit of a microcosm. You can see all of the talent, players like what sounds like my best friend at this point, Emma Meeson, man.
I was gonna say, and are y'all pen pals?
Nah, I had the pleasure of covering her for a season, and I acknowledge how great she is. But it's players like her as well as Gabby Williams, and we can go down a whole laundry list of players that could potentially be top 25 in the WNBA right now that are just not in the league because of obviously favoring playing if they're in their native countries, which respect to them for that. But you would like to have those talents harbored in your league. You want to be the premier league in the world, not just off of verbally saying it, but to literally house the best talent collectively. You can't get to those points without having more direction, more accountability, and just generally being better with the logistics side of things. I think the W is behind schedule on that. They are improving. So I want to acknowledge the improvement, but they still have great lengths that they still need to get to. The CBA is just one example in all of that.
We just hope that we don't give them an inch and they take the whole Louisiana Purchase. You know, we need some changes.
Well, I know NECA and company are not falling for anything less than what they deserve. So I feel like they couldn't be in a better position in terms of leadership.
Off and on topic, do you think NECA is a future commissioner of this league?
I think for the better interest of the W, yes. I would love to see someone like NECA, a former player. That would be huge. Don't quote me on that, but that might be the first time that a former player has stepped into a position of leadership that ranks that high. I know there are former players that serve on the boards and things like that, the board of governors, et cetera, et cetera. But to be the actual commissioner, the one that's pushing things across the finish line, you see what she's done with the Players Association. There's no better choice to take that reign in terms of being a commissioner whenever it is that she decides to be done playing basketball. And that will be after an illustrious championship
I ain't hitting
winning,
anything over
gold
here.
medal winning, Hall of Fame career. Like that would be insane.
I ain't hitting at no end to no career over here. No.
After this season, she ain't going nowhere no time soon.
Y'all got something to do.
Exactly.
Well, we got anything else to say about the CBA before we go?
Nah.
Because we got a real fun little last bit here for y'all. I have to say, Stephen and I have graded a lot of the Mercury roster but as a whole, from just a big lens, we haven't done like a huge like step back. Let's take a look at what happened. I would say that, Stephen and I, the team, everybody had pretty high expectations around the Valley regarding this Phoenix Mercury team. The roster was put together in a way that to win. I'll put it lightly. And I guess I want to talk to you a little bit about how you feel like they compared to those expectations.
Yeah, so coming into the season, I had, for realistic reasons, high expectations for the team. Matt Ishbia poured his heart and soul in terms of his finances into this franchise.
Period.
For practice facilities as well as the actual roster compiled. That did not come to fruition, though, in terms of the success of the season. I do think that it's a foundational piece in where they'll ultimately be come potentially this time next season or the season after that. But as far as this season in particular, I can't help but say it's at least a slightest bit underwhelming. Obviously, there's context with injury, unprecedented season being an Olympic season, the shortest training camp in WNBA history, a whole lot of newness from ownership to coach to general manager to multiple players that are top 5 on the team in terms of what they're
Mid-season
relied
trades,
on.
do they even do those anymore?
My point exactly.
Like,
There's
come
a
on.
ton of newness, in addition to issues logistically in terms of traveling and how that trickles into
Not to
on the court play.
mention, that even changed in the first 2 weeks of the season. Like,
Exactly.
they were traveling one way, and then 2 weeks into it, they're traveling a brand new way. And how much did that add to the stress of, doing a new thing in a new city with a new team, and now you have to travel in a brand new way.
Yep. And injuries and practicing with 8 players, 7 players sometimes. All of that context is very, very relevant to what I'm saying. I'm not ignoring any of that, but the team had expectations to be at least second round. They didn't win a game in the first round series. Obviously, they lost to one of the 2 representatives in the WNBA Finals. I have to give them a C+ for this season. I give them a C+. I think coming into the season, I expected them to have home court at worst, so being a top 4 seed and vying for a trip to the WNBA Finals, meaning making it to the second round. Those things did not come to fruition. Obviously, we spoke to the context involved in it all. All things considered, I give them a C+.
Big shouts to Melissa, Chris, and the CWP joining us in the comments. Thank you for all that. Melissa, you did miss your shout out, so I'm sorry about that. You'll have to rewind because Candace Parker's headed to Chicago, okay?
Don't do that.
She said it on Twitter.
No, but you gotta make sure you
I'm
do the
feeding
whole
her
thing.
delusions.
Make sure you do the whole thing.
Melissa,
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Melissa, I want to be delusional just like you. So that's it. That being said, though, back to what we were saying, Phoenix Mercury, I would agree that I would say that this team was probably their hardest critics. I think back to the people on this team, the roster construction, and just how much they know they can win. And I think that they would probably grade themselves way harsher than we would. I think when you think back to the 2023 season, missing the playoffs in the way they did and coming back again, like you said, entire new team and just so much newness around. We wanted more from them, but at the same time, I think under the circumstances, they kind of finished exactly where I anticipated when we were halfway through the season.
Yeah, that's the thing. We spoke to at length the tone shifting and the lens that this team was being looked at from being a top 4, top 5 team vying for, one of those spots to being a team that's going to make the playoffs, but you have to strip those expectations from earlier in the season for all of the multiple contexts that we brought into it that told the story of the Phoenix Mercury in 2024. So I think you are appropriate and correct in that. My question for you, what would be your grade for brand new head coach Nate Tibbetts and why?
Well, I was going to get to that actually. First of all, I want to say the buy-in on this team has been probably the most impressive thing to me. I think it's really difficult, especially in his position. He's never really coached women. He watched his dad do it, but he's never really coached women. And he comes in from the NBA to a team of, to put it plainly, big personalities. And I think he found his footing quicker than I anticipated and took a team that, again, missed the playoffs and is constructed in a way that it was so new with such big personalities that I tip my hat for him finding their offensive rhythm so early in the season, especially with all the injuries. Like David in the comments, 40 games due to injuries that their starters were out. Like, they play 42. So, that's crazy.
That's definitely a top 4 mark in the league. Don't quote me on that. I
Right.
think it was top 4.
I'm trying to think of anyone that had comparable injuries, and
The Mystics, the Wings.
but the top 6 teams, I'll say that, like, are really contending for something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that anyone was plagued the way that the Phoenix Mercury were.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, though, y'all know I was very satisfied with his coach challenges early in the season. I got to tweet the picture a little bit less in that latter half there, so I was a little disappointed there. And I remember those things more than y'all think. So that being said, I'm going to give him a B-.
You giving him a B- for the season? Or Nate specifically?
Nate.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That's in the realm of where I'm at. I would give Nate a B+. The buy-in is the first thing. One of the hardest things as a new coach to any context, especially if you're brand new to women's basketball, is to win over the graces of your players, to have them buy into your system. He did that in spades. You could tell they were bought into him and his system by the end of training camp.
In their 9 days, right. In their 9-day training camp, you could see it in their eyes. They were ready to run through a brick wall for him.
Yep. They're barking back and forth with him, literally
Period.
barking back and forth. Like, this little moments like that really speak to the depths of a relationship in a basketball sense, on the court and off the court. You could tell he cared about Natasha Cloud and her kids, her dogs. He referenced them when he was on our podcast. You could tell he cared about Kahleah Copper and her story, paying attention to the details and understanding why she is the way that she is. Brittney Griner, Diana Taurasi. You can keep going down the list.
The way that Kahleah bought into Nate's offensive system so much, and I don't think we see that with any other head coach in this league.
I think more than anything, especially for me having covered Kahleah, she can smell BS a mile away. And at the same time, she can respect when someone is genuine about how they're going about doing their job. There's proof of concept to why what they're speaking to is conducive to winning. And her being the best template, in my opinion, the way she bought into everything that he suggested in terms of her shifting her shot profile, taking more threes, taking more pull-up threes in particular, cutting out the long twos and just getting to the basket on consistency and working on her passing and her vision and pick and roll in particular. There's no better example on the team, in my opinion, than that in particular with Kahleah in alignment with Nate. And for those reasons, I give him a solid B+ this season. Also, my favorite thing to talk about all season, this team was the best in after timeout scenarios on offense. That's one of the only, outside of a few odd plays where point guard brings it up the court, the coach is saying, run this play, run that play. One of the other biggest ways for a coach to have a stamp on the game is after timeouts, because you can call a play, draw it up, anticipate what the defense is doing. They were better than the Las Vegas Aces in that context this season. They only got them by maybe a stride, but they were well ahead of everybody else that was in Las Vegas in that particular context. That's a direct cosign to everything that Nate is in terms of his coaching, his ability to articulate what he desires for his players to do, and their respective buy-in to come inversely from that.
Yeah, and y'all know how I feel about Girl Dad. He can stay for as long as he wants. I hope that no one else hears about him personally. You know what I mean? Y'all forget. Leave him and Chrissy Tolliver alone.
Well, I got some bad news on Panda. Somebody's going to come and give her opportunity at some point. It might not be this upcoming offseason, but she's not going to be around for too long. Player coaches, especially players that had the respect of her that Chrissy and the winning experience that she had, not going to last too long in that assistant coach position. But if I could speak really quickly on Nate a little bit more, one of my favorite things this season with Nate was to see him bring so many of the NBA's philosophies in terms of how offense is ran. Similarly to how Sandy Brondello evolved basketball, we saw a lot of similar elements to the offense that he ran that we saw in Sandy's system as well. Obviously, it's different, but they were very similar. They were akin in many different respects. A lot of empty corner actions, a lot of movement with cutters, opening lanes for drivers, and obviously the inside-out dynamic with Brittney Griner, with both coaches having coached her and had her as a staple in everything that they were doing on offense. So shout out to Nate. I think his impact this season was not it was felt by the entire WNBA. A lot of adjusting from teams in that, especially in that first quarter, trying to catch up to their offense. And I think that he was a top 6 coach, maybe even top 5 coach in the W this season.
I have to laugh about what you just said because earlier today I sent out a tweet from the Mercury account about how Diana had not made any decisions. And someone quote tweeted it to say, somewhere girl dad is watching the Celtics launch threes and making diabolical plans for next season. Do you believe this to be true?
Brittney Griner is taking 3 threes a game next season. You better stamp it. You better believe it. And that's going to spearhead everybody else taking more threes in addition to whatever other players they add in free agency.
Period. Well, I'm glad you said that.
I threw it off the backboard.
Here we go. Stephen and I have put together some lists, and we don't know what the other person's list is for our free agency wish list. And I want to start off by saying I had like 3 different lists, and I was pulling Kevin, I'm pulling David. I'm like, y'all, I don't want to pick wrong, okay? Nonetheless, though, I'm pretty proud of my list now, and I feel as though I've done good work. But I'm a little nervous to see your list. But also, I do think that we will have at least one of the same player.
I was about to ask. How many names in common do you think we got? Just one?
I think just one. Okay. If I know you well enough to know, I think I even know who the player is.
Okay.
But I could be wrong.
Okay.
And you could just throw me for a complete loop here. So
about to find
would
out.
you like to see my list first, or would you? Okay.
Go first.
All right. Well, my list is Kelsey Plum, Satu Sabali, and Alicia Clark.
I like that list, first of all. You want to give some reasons why you picked who you picked?
Well, Kelsey Plum, I just think personnel-wise would be a hoot on this team, first of all. I've been talking to you about this since All-Star. I've been like, I'm going to push this agenda. I'm like, please propaganda me regarding Kelsey Plum, okay? With Satu and Alicia, though, the versatility and the Mercury struggling to have a true 4 of any kind has really stuck out like a sore thumb. And I think going after either of those players would not necessarily negate the entire problem all in itself, but it would certainly help quite a bit. I was very hesitant about Satu because Satu has expressed that she does not want to leave Dallas, but actually I don't think we've even mentioned that LT has been let go. So I think that potentially could change things a little bit. I don't know that I necessarily 100% still buy that she's not trying to stay in Dallas. I mean, if your options are to play with Erika or play without Erika, which are you choosing?
Well, it depends on what the without Erika team.
You're not wrong, but nonetheless, I have a hard time. But nonetheless, still, it's a dream list, okay? Not, So, what do you think?
I like your list. I like your list a lot. Kevin, if we could get the graphic, perfect. My guy. Definitely Kelsey, Roo. That speaks.
Kelsey and Tasha on the same team. Are we serious?
It speaks for itself.
I would have to be put down.
It speaks for itself. And the content off the court, social media.
Again, it would be a full-time job just keeping up with it.
Literally.
Hello?
That would
my post notifications would be going crazy in the club.
That would be insane. But on the court specifically, Kelsey Plum, she's getting a lot of attention for her scoring ability since she was at Washington, even before that. The biggest thing she would bring to the Phoenix context is paint touches from non-Natasha Cloud, non-Kahleah Copper, non-Brittney Griner players. You put another player that is going to be playing in equally as much, if not potentially even the slightest bit more space than she did with Las Vegas
and can move.
At times.
Yes.
That's a problem. Those paint touches that she was getting for Las Vegas, she's kicking out to Kahleah Copper, Natasha Cloud. Brittney Griner, she's going to be kicking out to next season. Speaking to her being in a Mercury context, that's tough. Rebecca Allen being healthy, that's what you want.
You're giving me the jitters right now.
This team would lead. This team would be like top 3 in paint touches outside of Brittney Griner. Between Kahleah Copper and Kelsey Plum and Natasha Cloud, that's tough. The next name on the list that you had was
Satu Sabali.
You talk about the size. I'm imagining this team going small ball, having Rebecca Allen out there with Satu at the 5. Obviously, Kahleah, insert other guard here, and Natasha Cloud. That's a problem. The versatility that Satu would have, being able to be aggressive on ball and aggressive and help, knowing that Brittney Griner's defending behind her, the way that they could get out in transition, where Satu is one of the best. She's been knocking down threes. She's been taking them the last 2 seasons now. She shot almost 40% from 3 when she came back from right after the Olympics. And in the Olympics, you saw what she did. She was a top 3 player for the entire pool.
Just absolutely ridiculous.
The medal rounds. That would be ridiculous. That would be the exact type of addition that they would need. Especially in the event that Diana doesn't come back. You just slot her at the 4. You move Rebecca Allen down to the 3. Excuse me. Obviously, Kahleah goes to the 2, and then Tasha at the 1. It's like a hand in glove fit for different reasons than Kelsey Plum. And then the last name that you had,
Alicia Clark, 6th man of the year. Come on now.
Speaks for itself. Natasha's got experience with her. Obviously, Panda will have some type of reach in terms of if that was to actually come to fruition. You get to double down on a modern 4 next to / behind Rebecca Allen and get that elite floor spacing and switchability.
And the
for
girl can
40
shoot,
minutes.
period.
Exactly. And you also have a fail-safe option too in the case that Rebecca gets into an injury situation again like she did this season. A whole lot less demand on her to do what she does because she has somebody else that can do it just as well and has done it in a winning experience manner as well. So A+ on that list.
Period.
I like it. I like it a lot.
All right, your turn.
All right, Kevin. You can go ahead and pull mine up. First name I got on the list.
Name is the same.
Yeah. First, I'm gonna go ahead and
Alicia are almost the same.
yeah. And for full disclosure, Satu and Alicia Clark were definitely on my list. If I expanded it to 10, those 2 names would have definitely been in there.
I just have to say I pulled 9 players in totality.
Yeah, I think I had
these
about
3 were not any of them.
Oh wow.
I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry.
Wow, maybe you don't know me that well then. But anyways, we start with Ariel Atkins, WNBA champion, Olympic gold medalist, 2-time All-Star. I forgot how many times she was on the defensive team. Extremely underrated. Very, very underrated. I think a lot of people forget she was on the Olympic gold medal team that preceded the one that came this season, or this past year, rather. She fills all the gaps that they would look for at the wing position. She adds someone that can play the 4 a little bit, with or without Rebecca Allen. She can play the 3. She can play the 2. She even spent time playing the 1 this season for the Mystics because of their injuries and everything that came with that. She had a career best season in multiple respects. The versatility, the winning culture type of dynamic that she would bring. Obviously, she would have to come via trade, but I feel like with the situation that the Mystics are in right now, in terms of their draft picks, the lottery situation, where they might be wanting to go forward, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll see her as an asset in terms of moving off of her and getting compensation in return, sending her to a winning team. And in that respect, I couldn't imagine a better context for her than the Phoenix Mercury. She knocks down all her catch and shoot threes at a high volume elite level. She could put the ball on the deck. We talked about the defense. There's leadership there. Relationship again with Christy Tolliver. She keeps coming up as a piece that can help facilitate things. Obviously, she won the championship with Natasha Cloud as well.
Period.
There's a lot of context there. What you think about Ariel Atkins?
I think that it would be a fantastic addition. And like just off the top of my head immediately when you said it, just the relationship with Tosh, even like I think back to when the Mystics were here in Phoenix and watching them shoot the shoots on the side of the, floor, like you can't ask for more than that, and relationships are big in this business, and your willingness to do something for your teammates goes a lot longer of a way than maybe we talk about.
Yeah, exactly. And just for full context, this season, Ariel Atkins, 172 catch and shoot 3-point attempts, 40.7%. That's the exact type of spacing and shooting within that spacing that you want if you're Nate Tibbetts. And if you're Kahleah Copper or Natasha Cloud, who Kahleah actually spent time with her as well, talking about the context, her rookie season before she got traded to the Sky, there's a lot of sense there. That's probably the move that I think is most realistic in terms of them improving on the margins in a way that's also going to help the team with Diana or without Diana. So that's just something that I'm thinking about. Name number 2, gonna stick with the first letter A's. Big Al. Alicia Gray.
I should have known that this would be on your list. I should have known.
Come on.
I'm actually sorry that I didn't think this would be on your list. But before you speak on it,
go ahead.
Big Al is more than welcome to bring her rear into the valley anytime she wants, bro. Anytime. Big Al, Big Valley, bring it on. Yeah, Alicia Goggles Gray in Phoenix. Are we serious? Period.
Listen, you talked about lefty guards, smaller lefty guards. Why not bring someone that plays, and this is no disrespect to Kelsey Plum in any capacity because she's great at what she's great at for reasons. Alicia Gray doesn't give you that same type of scoring pop, though she is a very good catch and shoot 3-point shooter. But the value that she would bring more than anything else would come defensively. You put her in the backcourt with Natasha Cloud and Kahleah Copper on the wing, with her as the point of attack and Rebecca Allen defending around all of that, and Brittney Griner just chilling in the event that somebody does actually get beat off the dribble with those four. That's a problem. And then you talk about the Mercury wanting to play more in transition and more up-tempo. There's few players in the W that are better in transition than Allisha Gray, whether that be pull-up threes, catch and shoot threes, or get into the basket, or a paint touch in the first 8 seconds. The hand-and-glove fit continues in the same way that it did with Ariel Atkins in a younger version with Allisha Gray.
And I mean, we know for a fact she likes playing on the Phoenix court, right?
Clearly.
Need I say more?
Yes. And the other big thing within all of that, another head coaching change. They don't know who's going to be the head coach for that franchise going into next season. I would love to see Teresa Weatherspoon down there for multiple reasons.
That's my dream. No pun intended.
That was dope. Well done. Job well done. But yes, I'm curious going forward what the vision is for the team and how the next head coach sees that team and what they will maybe want in return, how the pieces fit together for whatever system they're trying to put in, all of these things. There's a question mark and gray area over the dream at this moment in time. So I think she would be poachable. And needless to say, Matt Ishbia, the most aggressive.
If anyone could poach.
Comes in, gets Kevin Durant the same day that he makes his announcement in his first press conference for the Phoenix Suns. And then a couple of months into his job and owning the Phoenix Mercury, he goes and swoops in and catches everybody off guard with Kahleah Copper. What else does he have up his sleeve?
If it's Big Al, I say this at least once a show, I'm going to be insufferable.
Stay tuned. And then my third and final, I'm surprised you really didn't say Kelsey Mitchell.
Listen, I almost got bullied into it, but I personally cannot foresee her leaving the Fever. I could be totally wrong, but the relationships that were built there, I think they need a little bit of that old head energy, and I think Kelsey brings that in a certain sense, and that would be why I did not list Kelsey Mitchell.
Well, I'm not breaking news in any capacity, but I don't think the head coaching carousel is done.
Oh, yeah, I don't think you're wrong. As long as it stays away from the Phoenix Mercury, I don't care where it goes either.
And this is definitely not me wishing that anybody loses their job in any capacity.
I don't even dislike Christie, so,
sure.
But yeah.
I honestly, in contrast to the discourse, I think she did a hell of a job this season. With the
I don't think there's anyone that had a harder job.
Like
nobody.
Yeah, that wasn't easy. I think she did a lot of little things. It took the team a long time to be receptive to it and for her to evolve in her teaching process with it. But I think that once they hit their stride after the break, she unleashed Caitlin Clark. She unleashed Caitlin Clark and turned her into a top 5 basketball player.
And you can't argue it now.
No.
Period.
She was literally on the all-first team. Like it's like she did a lot to unlock everything that their offense came to be. So not wishing for her job in any capacity to be gone. I'm just saying I would not be surprised if they look for her to go a different direction with it. But in that same vein, same way I spoke to Allisha Gray and the head coaching vacancy in Atlanta, if they do go that route, or just generally speaking, if they're looking to go a different direction at the 2-guard position around Caitlin Clark, maybe they want somebody that's more catch and shoot oriented or a bigger defender. Who's to say she's not back with the Indiana Fever? And at that point, I think that everybody that has a penny of salary cap space available will be trying to see what's what with Kelsey Mitchell, who was a top 10 player after the All-Star break.
We all saw it. Girl could not miss after the All-Star break.
I think it's funny that I just realized now, I just mentioned 3 left-handed players being added to the Phoenix Mercury. Well, 3 left-handed guards at that.
And then we've got ambidextrous Sophie over there that can do whatever she wants, right?
Correct.
Well, I think, I'll be honest, if any of those 6 players come to the Phoenix Mercury, we're going to be stoked. I think an emergency pod would be in order for any of the 6, if I'm frank with you.
Yes.
So watch out for that whenever that comes. I don't think we're going to be seeing a whole lot of movement until the new year.
It's going to be a minute. So Don't be expecting news outside of maybe head coaches being signed or another head coach
hirings.
being let go. Right. There's gonna be something along the lines of that more than anything else.
Lots of hirings to be had now.
Needless to say.
But again, stay away from Phoenix, okay? Nonetheless, though, I think we've done some really epic work today.
Yeah, I agree.
And they let us do it in the big studio. And now I have to remind you one more time to become a diehard. No better time to become a diehard than right now. And there's also that free newsletter that I've managed to forget to mention. If you, Kevin, is there something you can put on the screen so I know what the website is? Never mind. It is PHNX. Oh, Kevin is putting the link in the comments for us. Thank you. Big shouts to Kevin on that. But until then, you can follow us together on the PHNX_Mercury Twitter account. And Stephen's been doing some real big things in Suns land, so I'm going to let him talk about where you can find him for a second.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter with a new at StephenPG3. My YouTube channel is still the same, Stephen Frigion Griner 3. A lot of film sessions from the Mercury season that you can still tap in with to bridge that gap from the team not playing over the next handful of months, and just the general W being on hiatus for a little bit of time. And you can also find some of my written work and film sessions to come as well on gophnx.com. We got a lot of stuff coming in terms of the Suns this season. Kicking off tomorrow. Tap in with us. It's going to be a lot of fun, and be a diehard. That's how you're going to get a lot of this exclusive content. We're going to have a lot of stuff that's going to be free, of course, but you want to make sure you tap in with the diehard memberships, especially at this discount, which Kevin just put on the screen for you. Take full advantage of that. Take those extra pennies you got on your recent check from the overtime, and put that forth to the market that's actually covering the teams that you truly care about, and not all of these other teams that you could probably care less about at times. So support the local media, and that's the best way to kind of get the best work right in your mailbox and get these exclusive content opportunities.
Well, I'm going to miss this show every week. I don't know if we don't have it scheduled yet. So I'll keep you posted in the diehard chat. So you have to pay to know when the next show is. But until then, there's a lot to be had with college basketball season literally starting for me in 3 days. So follow me over on Twitter at Erika Lee Day, where you could have found me celebrating the Jalen Sherrod WNBA championship for the last 48 hours, rubbing it in everybody's face. But until then, it's been real. It's been fun. Thank you for all of you. Thank you to all of you for joining us this season. It has been a blast. And
Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
We'll see y'all soon.
We all silly like the mayor.